Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for this event, Connecticut Athletics Girls Speak, which is being co-hosted by the Women's Liberation Front, also known as WOLF, and Save Women's Sports. This is the fourth in a series of events that WOLF is hosting in 2020 called Women Speak. My name is Dansky, and I serve on the board of WOLF. My co-host this evening is Beth Stelzer, who founded Save Women's Sports. We are joined proudly by the three plaintiffs in a federal lawsuit that was recently filed in federal court in Connecticut, their attorney and one of their mothers. As we all know, we are living in strange times. This event was originally scheduled to occur in person in Hartford, Connecticut. For reasons that we all understand, we decided to take the event online. The hosts and panelists of this event all hope that you and your loved ones are all healthy and safe from the virus. First, our agenda for the evening. I will say a few words about WOLF and the importance of the rights, privacy, and safety of women and girls. Beth will follow with a brief message about Save Women's Sports. We will then be followed by the three plaintiffs in the federal lawsuit. Next, we will be joined by the mother of one of those plaintiffs. Finally, we will open the discussion to a question and answer session, and the plaintiff's attorney is available to answer any questions. A few words about logistics before we get started for anyone who may be unfamiliar with Zoom webinars. The chat function, which some of you may be accustomed to with Zoom meetings, is disabled in Zoom webinars, so there's no chat for this discussion. For the question and answer session, please look to the bottom of your screen where you should see a Q&A button. To ask a question, just click on that button and type your question. I will be reading the questions to the panelists and they will respond using their video and audio. The hosts reserve the right to remove anyone who attempts to engage in any abusive or disruptive behavior. With that, I will begin by saying a few words about WOLF. WOLF is an unapologetically radical feminist organization dedicated to the total liberation of women. We fight to end male violence, regain reproductive sovereignty, and ultimately dismantle the gender caste system. WOLF has consistently fought for the rights, privacy, and safety of women and girls, and we will continue to do so. WOLF is the only feminist organization that has gotten a feminist critique of gender before the upper echelons of all three branches of the United States government. We are hoping that they will listen and protect the category of women and girls throughout US law and policy. To be perfectly clear, we are living in a time when it has become socially impossible for women to speak about our rights, privacy, and safety without being threatened with social ostracization, career ruin, and violence. This is not an exaggeration. Women and girls are being told that simply speaking up for ourselves is hate speech. On March 3rd, 1913, a group of women held a parade in Washington, D.C. in support of the right of women to vote. For that, approximately 100 of them were attacked and beaten while police stood by and did nothing. In 1917, women stood silently outside the White House, demanding that President Wilson support women's suffrage. For that offense, they were arrested, incarcerated, and tortured. Women and girls have always had to fight for the right to speak publicly to defend our rights, and nothing is different today. Women and girls are being told that we are not allowed to discuss our experiences and our lives. That is why this lawsuit is so important and why what these girls are doing is so brave. We hope you will listen to what they have to say. I will now turn it over to Beth Stelzer to say a few words about her organization, Save Women's Sports.
Hi everyone, my name is Beth Stelzer. I'm the founder of the nonpartisan coalition, Save Women's Sports. I am a woman. I am a wife, mother, and amateur powerlifter. When I picked up a barbell for the first time a few years ago, it empowered me to start training for a women's state competition. I was so excited to compete with some of the strongest women in my state, but that is where my eyes were open to the issue of males competing in female sports. My chance to shine at that meet was tarnished by transgender rights activists who claimed that males had the right to compete in the women's competition. They disruptively protested the event because a male was not allowed to powerlift as a female. Since then, the man who prohibited from competing in a women's competition has now filed a complaint with the Minnesota Human Rights Department. That is why I created Save Women's Sports, to protect the integrity of female-only competition. I wholeheartedly support what these girls are doing in their lawsuit. Save Women's Sports has been a grassroots movement on a shoestring budget. I have no experience with nonprofit management, and in a single year, we have managed to grow from just a website to a network of people from all backgrounds, lobbying for legislation like the newly signed HB 500 in Idaho, the first state in the nation to enact legislation that will truly protect female athletes. Our primary goal is to provide the sport of female athletes, educate the public about what is happening with the male takeover of women's sports. I'm very excited to help provide these brave and courageous young women a chance to speak this evening. It's an honor to be here. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Beth. I just got a private message from a woman who supports what this lawsuit stands for. She says, please let the plaintiffs know that they have a lot of support out here in the real world. I realize that it's a fine line and that they and many of you are walking, trying to be respectful and yet firm in your convictions. I appreciate that it's not an easy thing to do. That's the end of her message. She asked me to share that with everyone. So now we'll hear from the plaintiffs. First, Selena Sol. Selena is a senior at Glastonbury High School where she competes in track and field. Selena, please go ahead and share your story and explain why you decided to speak out.
My name is Selena Sol. I'm a 17-year-old senior at Glastonbury High School. I chose to speak out and to get involved with this issue publicly because I believe that girls and women deserve their fairness in sport. I've always been an active girl. My parents introduced me to a variety of sports to burn off my energy. My mother was my training partner and coach for most of life. To this day, we still compete in the same competitions in different age groups, and we coach figure skating together at a nearby ice rink. I started running in track and field competitions when I was 8 years old. I discovered right away that it was something I really enjoyed and competed in every time I had the chance. I competed in the Hershey track and field games, first advancing to the state competition in 2, even 3 events. Then every summer, I competed in the Nutmeg State Games. My mother always competed along with me, but it became a family activity when my father joined us running on the track instead of filming from the bleachers. I couldn't wait to start high school and be a part of the track team. I joined running clubs and cross-country teams in elementary and middle school, since it was all that my hometown of Glastonbury, Connecticut offered. Long-distance running wasn't really my thing, but I did it because I loved to compete and believed that it would make me a better athlete. Track continues to fill an important part of my life. The track is my happy place. Working out and competing helps me handle stress, make new friends, and meet athletes from other schools and other backgrounds. It helps me become a better version of myself. I want to compete in college, ideally at a D1 school, and I work incredibly hard to shave off fractions of a second off my time. During the off season, I was introduced to a new training program that included specific sprinting exercises and powerlifting, which I had never done before. I've been focusing my training on improving my running form and building strength to increase power as I get out of my blocks. But like other female track athletes at all levels of competition, I face an impossible situation. In 2017, the CAAC changed the rules of our sport and allowed biological males to race in the girls category. That changed everything. Since then, when we line up in front of our blocks and the starter calls us into position, we all know how the race will end. We can't win. We can't advance. We've lived it. We've watched it happen. We've missed out on medals and on opportunities to compete. But when we've asked questions, CAAC said, in our case, it's about the opportunity to participate in athletics and opportunities to compete, not opportunities to win. What's the point of competing without the opportunity to win and advance to higher levels of competition? I personally lost out on the opportunity to advance to the New England Championship and compete in front of college coaches and race at world-class tracks because I was edged out by two biological males with physiological advantages over me. Science and common sense tells us that comparably fit and trained males are generally bigger, faster, and stronger than females. That's not bigotry, that's science. And that's the whole reason why we have women's sports as a separate category in the first place, to give women and girls like me the opportunity to be champions and compete on a level playing field. None of us sacrifice our nights and weekends just to participate. That's not why we're on track. We race to win, to earn those medals, to be on that podium, and to have the chance to earn college scholarships. The CAAC, school administrators, legislators, and other adults we trusted to maintain fairness and safety in sports refused to find a solution that would protect women's sports. They refused to listen to my parents when they pointed out the unfairness of the CAAC policy. They refused to consider the fact that their policy turned women's sports into co-ed sports. They refused to listen when I started speaking out publicly. Time is slipping away. My graduation is just around the corner. That's why I chose to file a lawsuit challenging this unfair policy. Girls shouldn't be banned from having their own separate category. I don't want future girls to have to go through what I've gone through. Female athletes shouldn't be sidelined, and we won't be silenced. We truly believe that there are better solutions, solutions that protect opportunities for all athletes.
Thank you, Selena. Just to be clear, when Selena refers to the CIAC, she's talking about the Athletic Association in her state. Thank you so much, Selena. As a personal long distance runner, I am in awe of your and your co-plaintiff's track prowess. So thank you for everything that you are doing. You are incredibly brave, and we're all grateful. Next, we will hear from Alana Smith, a sophomore at Danbury High School. Alanna, will you share your own story and why you are involved in this lawsuit?
My name is Alana Smith. I am 16 years old and a sophomore at Danbury High School in Connecticut. I was born to be an athlete. My dad, Lee Smith, is a Major League Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher. My mom, Cheryl, was a high school track athlete and still runs today. My twin brother is a three-sport high school athlete who excels on and off the playing fields, and I still tease him that even in flip-flops, I am still faster than he is. My mother's brothers, my Uncle Greg, played professional baseball, and Uncle G played in the NFL. The sports legacy that surrounds me wasn't something I thought about because being an athlete is in my genes, and being a competitive athlete is who I am proud to be today. Running with my mom when I was younger taught me how to prepare, how to train, and how to focus on being the best I could be at any given moment. With her encouragement, I started competitive track in middle school. I focused on short distance running, the 100 meter, the 200 meter, and the 400 meter. And I became a three-peat 100 meter Connecticut state champion, winning it in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. And so I've continued competing in high school. At my first track meet, I was nervous. I felt teammates had high expectations for my performance because they knew my middle school times. The first few track meets were cold and rainy, not ideal running conditions, and not great for my nerves. But I won, and it felt great. My performances had proven to myself, to the coach, to the team that I was a serious competitor, that I belonged on the girls' outdoor track team, and that I could be a solid contributor to a winning season. As a freshman last year, I set records, achieved personal goals, and led the Danbury High School girls track team to a championship season by winning the state open, class AA championship, and other meets. I validated my love to compete, and I had proven to coaches, teammates, fans, and supporters across the board that I am good at it. I spend hours on the track and in the weight room improving my speed and my strength. It is hard work, but every hour spent training can shorten my time around the track, and it can put me ahead of my competitors. I've been taught to meet every challenge with courage, with unwavering focus, and with the heart of a fair competitor and to never settle for anything less than the very best I could do. But last year, I faced an unexpected challenge. I found out I'd be racing against a male who identified as a female at the state championship. Inside, I felt I had no chance of winning in spite of the hours of training and knowing my personal best in each event. I felt defeated before even stepping onto the track. But I said nothing. I knew it wasn't fair to me or to any of the other girls competing at the state open. In the 200-meter state championship event, the male athlete came in first place. On a fair playing field, I would have come in second, but instead I came away with third place, a bronze medal. I know third place is nothing to be ashamed of if that is the place earned fair and square, but it wasn't biologically fair and square. The same thing happened at New England Regionals. I should have received a silver medal as a freshman, but I didn't because a biological male who identified as a female won the top spot. I knew it then, and I know it now, that before I even step on the track, the race is not fair. I know that it is not fair for any high school biological male to compete against high school biological females. Biological unfairness doesn't go away because of what someone believes about gender identity. Female athletes deserve the chance to compete on a level playing field. In Connecticut alone, 2 males have been running girls off the track since 2017. Between them, they've shattered 17 state records in the girls category. Biological girls in Connecticut have lost more than 85 opportunities to qualify for the next level of competition. Those are opportunities they'll never get back. Fairness of play has already been removed from my freshman track experience, and I don't want to feel defeated again or have other female athletes go through this experience. That's why I chose to join fellow athletes in my state and file a formal complaint against the Connecticut policy. Through our attorneys at Alliance Defending Freedom, we asked the Department of Education to fix this unfair situation last June. As graduation nears for each of us and opportunities diminish, we grew tired of waiting. And so this past February, we took another step forward and filed a federal lawsuit to challenge the discriminatory policy that has hurt female athletes like me. It hasn't been easy. People call us sore losers. They call us transphobes. They even call us racist. They call us everything but what we really are, dedicated female competitors who deserve a fair shot at victory on a level playing field. I have also received a lot of support as well, from social media messages to a woman at the mall who recognized my mom and me. She stopped to thank us for being brave and for standing up for women's sports. It's not easy to be the public face of this, but I'm thankful for the support I've received from people across the country as we stand up for fairness of play in high school female sports. Sports should be fair. Sports must be fair to have any true value in history. It's simple. All female athletes like me deserve the chance for fair competition on a level playing field. And that's why I hope by standing up today, I'll make a difference, not only for the rest of my high school career, but for other generations of female athletes that will follow.
Alanna, thank you. Keep running, keep fighting, keep going. Oh, fine. Next is Chelsea Mitchell, a senior at Canton High School. Chelsea, we want to hear your story.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Mitchell. I'm a 17-year-old senior at Canton High School. I love to run. From a young age, I was always told that I was fast. So when I started high school, I was beyond excited to join the indoor track and field team. Not only for sport, but also to follow in my sister's footsteps and to meet new people and be a part of a bigger community. I never imagined in all my years that I would become the athlete I am today. This sport has given me so much, and I can't even begin to express in words how much track means to me. My freshman year was a dream. I competed at a very high level, outstanding for a freshman. I was ranked 7th in the entire state in the 100 meters behind 5 seniors and 1 other freshman. However, that freshman, I soon learned, was a biological male identifying as a female. Since my freshman year, my accomplishments have been overshadowed because transgender athletes have been allowed to run in the female category. That year, I was not recognized for being the fastest freshman in the state. Little did I know that in the years to come, it was only going to get worse. My sophomore year, a new athlete began competing in the female category after competing on the males team for the previous 3 seasons. As I saw their times, I realized that none of my competitors or myself would even have a chance to touch their times. They were crazy fast. That feeling that neither myself nor any other girl would be able to best these transgender athletes stuck. It's been ingrained in every female athlete that has competed against these athletes, and we've stood by and watched as countless girls have had meet records broken, state titles ripped for them, and deserving girls were put on the sidelines instead of the podium. For the past 4 years, we've settled into our starting blocks knowing that, no matter how hard we work, we don't have a fair shot at victory. This is the situation I faced over and over again throughout my high school career. 4 times I've been the fastest girl in a state championship. Twice I finished well enough to win an All New England award. And yet, each of those times, I've lost those awards and recognitions because of a biological male. It's not fair and it's not right. Countless girls have lost out on the opportunity to win and compete at the next level. We don't belong on the sidelines. Girls deserve to compete on a fair playing field. I want to share a moment with you from my junior year in the outdoor season. The previous indoor season, I had lost a 55-meter dash at both the state and state open championships to biological males. It was my outdoor state championship, and I was the defending champion in the 100 meters and 200 meters. I knew it was going to be hard to best the transgender athletes that had unfairly beaten me the past season. However, I had a fire in me, a determination to win and defend my title. As I lined up for the 100-meter finals, I was in the middle of the 2 biological males. I was extremely nervous. I wanted to win so badly, and I knew I could do it. Still, in the back of my mind, there was doubt that I even stood a chance. As we waited for the start, I heard my name being called in the bleachers. I looked up to find a group of athletes cheering for my town. As they announced our names, the crowd started cheering my name louder and louder. I knew that this race was no longer just for me, but for everyone in those stands, for every girl that had ever lost something because of this. I felt a sense of calm come over me. I was no longer nervous, but confident in my abilities and everything I knew about how to run. I knew that I was the fastest girl there, one of the fastest in the state. I remembered all my training and everything I had been taught on how to maximize my performance. I allowed all the support that I had to filter through my head. I thought of all the times I'd lost to male competitors. I thought of all the times that other girls had lost to them too. I could feel the adrenaline in my blood and hope inside me that just possibly I could win this. Then the gun went off, and I lost. Again. This issue is very personal for me, but it's not just about me. It's about every young woman who dreams of competing, of having her chance to showcase her talent, of being rewarded for doing her very best. Female athletes like me are only looking for a fair playing field. We've been told we deserve a chance at excellence, at success. Our dream is not to come in second or even third place, but to win fair and square. All we're asking for is a fair chance.
Thank you, Chelsea. And now we will hear from Christy Mitchell, Chelsea's mom, and also the mom of 2 other female athletes. Christy, share with us your thoughts.
Thanks, Kara. It's a strange feeling watching your daughter cross the finish line in first place just ahead of a biological male. What should be a simple moment of pride and joy, relishing your daughter's state championship victory, turns out to be all too fleeting, soured by an immediate realization of what this means. Here's what it means. Rather than hailing your daughter as the state open champion in the 55-meter dash, local media will instead play a game of gotcha. It means that rather than openly celebrating the victory she earned through years of hard work and determination, your daughter reacts cautiously, even somehow apologetically. As a mother and an attorney, I continue to question how we even got here. When I should be caught up with my daughter in the thrill of victory, I'm thinking about how her win will be twisted by some and used to confuse the issue of fairness in girls' sports. I understand the long-term impact of moments like these. For my younger daughter, who's on the cusp of entering high school athletics like her sister, and for young female athletes all across the country. Our family has been dealing with this issue since 2017. That's when my daughter was first impacted by a Connecticut interscholastic athletic conference policy that allows males to compete in girls' sports based not on biological reality, but based on gender identity. That policy has jeopardized fair competition, robbing female athletes of countless opportunities to win, medal, and advance to the next level of competition. During that time, 2 male athletes have dominated the female track in Connecticut. Between them, these 2 male competitors have taken 15 women's track championships, and they have rewritten the record books with 17 individual women's meet records throughout the state. Worse still, because of the CIAC's so-called progressive policy of ignoring real biological differences between the sexes, girls across our state have now missed out on over 85 opportunities to advance to the next level of competition. Girls aren't losing just the opportunity to win, but to stretch themselves at elite meets, earn college scholarships, and prepare for their own careers in athletics, coaching, and more. Adolescent males will always have physical advantages over comparably gifted and trained girls. That's the reason we have women's sports. And when we choose to ignore those differences, it's girls who pay the price. That's why my daughter and I decided, along with athletes Selena Sol, Alana Smith, and their mothers, to file a lawsuit challenging this clear violation of Title IX's promise of a fair playing field for women and girls. This wasn't my first choice, though. It wasn't even my second, third, or fourth choice. It never should have come to this. In the years leading up to the lawsuit, I reached out to the CIAC executive director, our state's Title IX coordinator, a Department of Education attorney, and a U.S. Office of Civil Rights attorney in Boston, all to no avail. Not a single person was willing to have a reasoned discussion on this issue. Even feminist groups like National Women's Law Center, Women's Sports Foundation, and several others have sided with males on this issue, rather than the young women they claim to represent. That betrayal is unbelievable to me, and I want all women to know where those organizations stand. It is not with us. In those conversations, I learned what it's like to be told, your daughter has the right to participate, but not to win. 4 times my daughter has lost a state champion title to male athletes. It's been heartbreaking to see Chelsea work so hard, only to lose because of a policy that inherently puts girls at a disadvantage. And now, my daughter isn't even allowed to enjoy her own victories. On back-to-back weekends since the lawsuit was filed, Chelsea won split-second races against one of the 2 male athletes who has dominated the field since 2017. Prior to filing the lawsuit, Chelsea had never beat this male athlete. Chelsea had raced head-to-head against this athlete for a state or New England championship title 10 different times. And 10 times, this male athlete took home the title of champion, while Chelsea and other female athletes had to quietly settle for runner-up. None of the reporters asked her about those 10 races. And they didn't seem to notice that Chelsea still hasn't won a race where both males have competed. In fact, thanks to a false start, the male athlete who ran the fastest 55-meter women's time in all of New England this year didn't even participate in the state championship races that Chelsea had won. The top seed in the race, by a large margin, was disqualified due to a false start, but that fact never even made it into the story. Instead, she had barely crossed the finish line by the time the media reacted with the suggestion that her wins undermine our argument that it's fundamentally unfair to allow males to compete in women's sports. What about the girls who should have finished second or third? Or those who just missed the cut to advance to the next level? They would like us to ignore them, but we won't because they matter, and we are doing this for them too. Girls deserve to compete on a level playing field, and I wish it didn't take a lawsuit to make that simple point, but that's where we find ourselves. For our daughter's sake, we won't stand idly by and hope for the sporting world to come to its senses on its own. Our girls aren't big-name professional athletes. They are just high school girls, but they are taking a stand and they are leading from the ground up, and we are very proud of them. Thank you.
Christy, thank you so much. Okay, so that ends the presentation phase. And now we're gonna open it up to Q&A. We've already got a few questions. Oh gosh, okay, questions are pouring in.
They're fair.
All right, let's open it up to questions. I actually want to start with a question for the girls. Have you ever had the opportunity to compete against each other, and what was that like? And the answer is going to take a minute for our administrator to open the video. Yeah. Have you all ever competed against each other, and what was that like?
Yeah, I've competed against Alana and Selena several times, and it's fun competition, you know? We have fun competing against each other.
Yeah, I enjoy competing against them because we're all friends, and no matter like what place we come in, it's still fun.
Yes, we've only had the chance to compete against each other a couple of times, mostly at the state level meets, but it's always fun running with these two girls.
Christy, you in your remarks criticized, I think rightly, organizations that put themselves out as feminist for not protecting women and girls sports. I'm just curious, and like if you don't feel like commenting, that's okay, but I'm just wondering, do you consider yourself a leftist or a feminist, or anything that you want to share about that?
Well, I don't know that I have ever really considered myself a feminist per se. I certainly, when this issue came up, those are the organizations I first thought to look to. You know, Women's Sports Foundation, I have a women's issue, a sports issue, National Women's Law Center, and I was so surprised to see them take such a strong stance against women in favor of males on this issue. And I was completely floored by it and honestly felt very betrayed by it. And that's why I'm just so thankful for WOOF and for your organization and Save Women's Sports, that there are other organizations out there willing to stand up and support these girls.
Thank you. The WOOF will never abandon the rights, privacy, and safety of women and girls, and I know that Save Women's Sports is committed to saving women's sports. That's why it exists. So thank you for that. Okay, just a couple of questions before I open it up to the audience. Chelsea, in addition to participating in track and field, you also compete in soccer. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the implications of potentially allowing boys to compete on the girls' soccer team?
Yeah, so soccer, like most contact sports, is very physical, and even though I've not had direct experience with it, allowing biological males that identify as females to participate in contact sports where, you know, biological females are at a disadvantage, a lot of females are going to get hurt. Contact sports are very brutal. I get pushed around a lot, and allowing biological males who have clear physical advantages would be very damaging and could result in a lot of physical injuries.
Got it. Thank you. Alanna, you have expressed feelings of fear and intimidation in your remarks about having to compete against males. Can you say a little bit more about what that feels like, especially given allegations that you're transphobic and racist?
It's like knowing that I'm already going to lose the race or not come in the top spot before I even step on the track. So it's like I'm more striving to get a new personal record instead of trying to get the top spot. So it's really degrading knowing that like I can't strive for first or even second place.
Yeah. You want to say anything about what it's like to be accused of being racist?
It's just people think that we're trying to go against them as people when really we're just trying to restore fairness in our sport. So it's really upsetting when people don't really understand the true meaning behind what we're doing.
Got it. Selena, besides the problems that you've encountered in athletic competition itself, which we've discussed, has this experience caused you to lose out on any other opportunities?
It's so far only made me lose out on opportunities to compete either in the finals of an event, for example, the 55 at the 2019 CAAC State Open Championships. I lost out on qualifying for finals, and I lost out on advancing to New England Championships, which has happened several times. I've lost out on being able to get medals at other invitationals throughout the season. So the only things that I've suffered that I know of so far are purely with athletics.
Got it. Okay. So now I'm looking at the Q&A, and a reporter asks, your fight to preserve female-only sports seems to now have more cross-partisan support among the general public than it even did if it's mostly Republican legislators in state governments helping you, compared to when you first started. Okay, I know this reporter. I'm going to paraphrase his question. I'm going to paraphrase his question because I know what he's getting at. A couple of years ago, it appeared that the only support that you might have had was Republicans. And now it seems like maybe you're getting cross-partisan support. Do you experience that, or how do you experience the political reality of what's going on in your own state or in your own state legislature? Is there any hope of like protecting women's sports in Connecticut?
Kara, I can speak to that a little bit if you'd like. I have met with several lawmakers in Connecticut on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, and we did have support of both parties. The lawmakers themselves that we spoke to were supportive of us in this issue, but there was a hesitancy on the part of the Democrats in our state to take on the issue directly. And so I was working really hard to try and get the state legislature to pass a law similar to what was just passed in Idaho so that we would have some relief in that regard. But having a Democrat-controlled legislature, it just made it really difficult here in our state.
Got it. Yeah, understood. Okay. So someone asks, and I think that this is a question for Christiana, what is the status of the lawsuit?
Sure, and good evening, everyone. I'm Christiana Holcomb, the girls' attorney with Alliance Defending Freedom. So we filed the federal lawsuit in mid-February, and it's still in the very preliminary stages. We did ask the court to enter an injunction stopping the CIAC from continuing to move forward with its discriminatory policy and attempting to restore a level playing field for Selena, Chelsea, and Alana while the lawsuit moves forward. That has not been fully briefed yet. It has not yet been heard by the court. We're still, again, in a very preliminary phase. Some of those dates are getting pushed back a little bit just due to the coronavirus and everyone adjusting to doing things remotely from home. So we hope to have a ruling on that very shortly, and hopefully before the CIAC would resume any type of spring sport activity.
Thank you, Christiana. Anonymous question asks, brave young women, how have your friends and classmates reacted to your Title IX complaint? Would you like to start, Chelsea? I'm just going in order of how I see you on my screen. Chelsea, how have your classmates reacted?
I've gotten a lot of support from my friends and classmates and peers. I haven't gotten any hate really in person. All I've gotten is support.
Alanna?
I've also gotten a lot of support. I've only got negative comments on like social media and stuff like that, but most of my friends and teammates are really supportive about it.
Selena?
For me, it's the same as the other two girls. I get a lot of support from my teammates, fellow parents, and competitors from other schools. But most of the hate that I get is from social media, not in person.
What do you find the most difficult argument to overcome from the Athletic Association?
Well, Kara, I've met with the executive director of the CIAC last March, and when I sat down for that one-on-one meeting with him and my principal, the first thing that he said to me was, trans girls are girls, so there's nothing we can do. And that was when that's the starting point, it's really hard to go anywhere. So that premise is wrong. Trans girls are trans girls and they're biological males. But when you're not starting from that basic statement of truth, it's really hard to overcome and have a reasonable conversation.
So is that the hardest thing, like in terms of talking with legislators?
I think the biggest thing is everybody's pointing their fingers. CIAC is saying they have to follow state law. The lawmakers I spoke to said, no, absolutely not. CIAC is empowered to have rules that make sense for both females and transgender athletes. And so there's been a lot of everybody just kind of passing the buck.
There is a lot of passing the buck. Thank you for pointing that out. And I'm going to have like moderator privilege and saying like, this is not a thing between females and anyone. Like, this is a fight for girls and women to fight. We're just women and girls fighting. That's it. There's not like a different category except for men. Okay, I'm getting tons of questions. You guys are getting so much brave young women questions, brave young women comments. Basically, are you encouraged by Idaho? Are you encouraged by Idaho?
Yes, we are. It's important that that Idaho is able to pass this bill because it sets a precedent for all the other states to hopefully enact a similar ruling.
Yes, we're really grateful for Idaho. I can't thank Governor Little and the bill sponsors and everyone in Idaho that worked really hard. This was really important for us, and I wish that Connecticut would follow their lead.
I'm going to jump in. Is there a way in which you might want to be involved in the Idaho litigation? Well, to be clear, sorry, there's no current Idaho litigation, but it's anticipated. If anyone sues the state over the law, would you all want to be involved in some way?
Well, I'll jump in here as their attorneys and just say, I'm sure they would love to use their platform to help advocate for Idaho. Idaho was an absolutely fantastic step forward. And as you mentioned, there's a number of other states considering similar bills. We hope that now that Idaho has actually kind of crossed that threshold, enacted it into law, that other states will have the courage to move forward and do the same thing to protect girls like Selena and Chelsea and Alana.
Thank you, Christiana. Linda Blade says, will you accept a big thank you from Canada? I know Linda Blade is in Canada and she is a total champion for women's rights. Most of the things coming in the Q&A are all just like, yay, you girls, rock on, sisters. That's basically what's going on here in the Q&A.
Kara, I saw one on there that I think would be interesting for Christiana to address is the recent Department of Justice statement of interest and how that applies to the case.
Oh,
I think some people are curious about the process.
Sure. What's the question? Go for it.
Yeah, no, so the U.S. Department of Justice just last week filed what's called a statement of interest. Essentially what it says is we're the federal government and we have an interest in ensuring that federal law is rightly interpreted and rightly applied. And so if a case is of sufficient national importance and potentially precedent setting, the Department of Justice will occasionally file these statements of interest. Now, it doesn't mean that they have entered as a party into the case, but they could potentially, what they're doing is presenting their arguments to the court for consideration. The department could potentially ask for argument time, but it's really an encouraging thing to see the weight of the US government supporting Selena, Chelsea, and Alana and their incredibly brave stand against these discriminatory policies. So it's a very encouraging move, and we hope that it's going to help give courage to other young female athletes who feel silenced by this whole gender identity theory and these types of discriminatory policies and laws across the country.
I'm sure Selena, Chelsea, and Alana could use their platforms for future advocacy. That's a great way to end this. That's a question. How do you plan to use your platform for advocacy going forward?
If there is another situation where there are biological males that are being allowed to compete with the girls, like our situation in Connecticut, I think that we would all want to speak up and hope to get a policy enacted that would be more fair to everyone involved versus a small grouping of competitors.
I agree with Selena. I just want to use my platform to restore fairness in girls' sports. You know, that's why I'm here, is because, you know, this has been really unfair for me and the other girls. So just to continue advocating for fairness.
Yeah, we just want fairness in our sport and just support biological females.
Thank you all so much. I don't have any more questions in the Q&A. Can everyone just really thank Selena, Alana, and Chelsea and Christy for their time tonight and for their bravery, for their courage, for their optimism.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for all the nice messages.
Yes.
There's so much support for you girls out there. There's so much support. Don't ever doubt it.